Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 3698 AM. Today's date is July 30th, 2025, and the title of the episode is Trump forcing a divide within the Fed? Banks accept Bitcoin? Pieces coming together. All right, guys, let's talk about something nobody wants to admit. You're in your 40s, maybe 50s, and your body just won't respond like it used to. The weight won't come off, seeing results from the gym is sluggish, and you're completely exhausted by 3 p.m. Here's the truth. After 30, men can start to lose about 1% of their testosterone every year. It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to fix it. That's why I want to tell you about this supplement bundle from our friends at Sculpt Nation. It's a 3-part system designed specifically for men who refuse to accept decline as normal. First, there's Test Boost, an all-natural testosterone booster that helps your body produce what it's supposed to. Then Burn, a thermogenic that actually targets stubborn fat. And finally, Toned, in 90, a complete workout, a meal plan built for real men with real responsibilities who can't wait around for results. Lots of guys are reporting they've dropped serious weight while building lean muscle. But more importantly, they're showing up as the husbands and fathers their families deserve. Strong, capable, leading by example. And they partner with us to give you a big-time discount if you take action today. Go to sculptnation.com/X22 right now to take advantage of this special opportunity, or just click the link in the description. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, the private West Central Bank, the World Economic Forum, you can see that the D's, the Fed, the fake news, they're having a major problem because they're trying to spin the story of the economy. And like we said before, they're never going to be able to convince the people that the economy is not doing well, especially when the people are experiencing lower fuel costs, when the people are experiencing lower inflation, when people see jobs coming back, when Trump talks about giving a rebate to the people, when he talks about getting rid of the taxes for the people. This is going to be very difficult for the deep state players. I mean, they're trying. They're doing their best to try to convince everyone that everything that you're seeing is an illusion, and soon it's all going to come to an end. Remember, they were doing the opposite when Biden was in office. They told you the inflation, the higher fuel prices, the economy that was falling apart where people were losing jobs. Actually, they weren't even creating jobs. That was one gigantic illusion, what you were experiencing. What was really happening is that the economy was fantastic. So all they did was reverse everything, and now they're telling you everything that you're experiencing where the economy is getting better, it's just a gigantic illusion. But that argument is completely and utterly falling apart. And you could see that Trump now is putting all the pieces together. He is now pushing towards getting rid of the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve right now, they are divided amongst each other. And I believe soon that Trump is going to have the leverage that he's going to need to get rid of the Federal Reserve. Now, we're going to be talking a lot more about this a little bit later. But first, let's talk about the climate hoax. Because you have to remember, going back in time all the way to Obama, they started to put everything in place to push us into the Green New scam. And of course, when Biden came along and Trump put him into place as the resident, they went all out pushing the Green New scam. And think about what all the nations have done. They keep saying, oh, we're going to limit our CO2. Oh, we're going to save the earth. All they did was transfer all production and everything that they were doing over to China. And when you look at the CO2 emissions, you can see it very clearly that, yeah, the other countries, their CO2 emissions decline, but China's increased. And you have to ask the question, why is this? Because all they were doing was transferring everything away from their country to another country. Because what was supposed to happen? China was going to be the reserve currency. All manufacturing was going to be in China. The rest of the Western nations, there was going to be absolutely nothing. Geiger Capital put this out and said the following: "Thank you, Western nations, for sacrificing your economies to save the planet. You just must buy everything now from China." And when you look at it, you could see Germany, United Kingdom, France, their CO2 emissions, have been declining. Even the United States has been declining, except for China. That has gone straight up. So basically, it was just a transfer of wealth, transfer of production, transfer of pretty much everything. And that should tell you everything you need to know right there. And you can see that Trump now, he is now ending Obama's climate policies, especially the endangerment finding. So during Obama's 2 terms, Obama enacted several policies that subsidize uncompetitive, unneeded, and unwanted green energy while placing erroneous regulations on fossil fuels. During his first term, Trump tried to reverse much of the Obama administration's anti-fossil fuel actions. There was only so much that could be done given the constant distractions Trump faced throughout his first term. One of the most consequential environmental regulations that Trump was unable to eliminate was Obama's endangerment findings. Most Americans have probably never heard of the endangerment finding, but this obscure rule has effectively allowed the federal government to label carbon dioxide a harmful pollutant that can be regulated under the Clean Air Act. A U.S. Supreme Court decision allowed the Obama administration to enact the rule in the first place. In 2007, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in Massachusetts versus EPA that greenhouse gases are air pollutants covered by the Clean Air Act, and that the EPA must determine whether or not emissions or greenhouse gases from new motor vehicles cause or contribute to air pollution which may reasonably be anticipated to endanger public health or welfare. Although this is the standard reading of the ruling, it's not totally accurate. According to the majority opinion written by former Justice John Paul Stevens, we need not and do not reach the question whether on remand EPA must make an endangerment finding or whether policy concerns can inform EPA's action in the event that it makes such a finding. We hold only that EPA must ground its reasons for actions or inactions in the statute. So the 2007 decision did not determine that carbon dioxide is a harmful air pollutant. Rather, it granted that the EPA has the authority to determine if carbon dioxide is a harmful greenhouse gas based solely upon unequivocal data. Trump's EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin has made rescinding the endangerment finding a priority. A lot of people are out there listening. They might not know what the endangerment finding is, he said. If you ask congressional Democrats to describe what it is, the left would say that it means that carbon dioxide is a pollutant. Carbon dioxide is an endangerment to human health. They might say methane is a pollutant. Methane is an endangerment to human health. Lee Zeldin said, I would say that's inaccurate. The Obama administration said the carbon dioxide, when mixed with a bunch of other well-mixed gases, greenhouse gases, that it contributes to climate change. How much? They don't say. They say that climate change endangers human health. So because of these different mental leaps, then there were all sorts of vehicle regulations that followed. Zeldin said repealing the endangerment finding is like basically driving a dagger into the heart of the climate change religion. It is also great news for Americans. Climate alarmists and environmental zealots claim that carbon dioxide emissions must be eliminated no matter the cost. They are wrong. By denigrating CO2 and attempting to regulate it to death, they have harmed tens of millions of Americans with higher energy bills. Their silly belief that carbon dioxide is a harmful air pollutant has put the entire U.S. energy grid at risk. The Trump administration knows that natural gas and coal are vital to America's future. With the endangerment finding on the chopping block, the United States is even better in a better position to achieve energy dominance, which will pave the way to American AI supremacy. And yes, it will help with manufacturing. It will help with many, many things. And you could see that the entire climate agenda is now basically being dismantled. Remember, they built this up. They put everything into place. I'm talking about the deep state players, the central bankers. And now it's being completely and utterly dismantled right in front of their eyes. And they cannot stop this. And what's very interesting is that since Trump made the deal with the EU, you could see the EU, they've been struggling for a very long time. Remember, they've been shifting their production. They've been shifting their energy away from their country. And now it's really, really hurting them. Daniel Faubert put this out and said, only one European car makes it into the top 10 best-selling vehicles worldwide. No European company in the global top 10 of tech. No European search engine. No smartphone. No operating system. No streaming platform. No social media giant. No cloud infrastructure. No semiconductor leader. What Europe produces at scale is paperwork, taxes, and restriction. The EU turned the continent into a museum of former power, managed by people who fear growth, hate competition, and worship consensus. Innovation is treated as a risk. Success is treated as a threat. Meanwhile, the U.S. dominates tech, South Korea leads in chips and displays, China builds everything else, and Europe holds panel discussions on ethics. And you could see that, once again, they destroyed themselves. And now Trump made a deal with them, which is not really good for them, but really great for America. And you could see they are going to be lost in all of this. Remember, I do believe the central bank, the World Economic Forum, their plan was to shift everything out of Europe. So this way, there were no manufacturing jobs. There was nothing. And actually, they were going to force all the people into 15-minute cities, reduce the population. This is what they really wanted in the end. And now it's completely and utterly falling apart. Just like everything else that they have done, it's completely and utterly falling apart. And you can see their narrative on the economy is falling apart. I mean, they're doing their best to convince people that the economy is really not doing well and everything that you're feeling is kind of fake and phony. And don't look at that. Just look at what we're telling you. Greg Price put this out and said, the New York Times is doing their best this morning to try and explain why Trump's economy growing is still a bad thing. The New York Times, this is the headline. U.S. economy slowed in first half of 2025 as tariffs scrambled data. Gross domestic product rebounded in the spring and after contracting at the start of the year, but consumer spending remained weak. So they're doing whatever they possibly can to convince people that it's okay, it's not that great, but again, the economy is improving. And you have to remember something very, very important. Trump has brought the economy out of a recession. Yes, Biden and his team, not just Biden, but all those people in the background, they actually caused a recession. Actually, Obama was doing this when he was in the White House. You know what Trump did when he came into office? He brought us out of Obama's recession and made the economy grow very, very quickly. Amy Klobuchar is attempting to attack Trump on prices. And she says, she met this woman. She was walking out of the grocery store and she saw her receipt and she said, no. She said people are feeling awful because inflation's really picking up. No, people are actually seeing the opposite happen right now. Actually, inflation is falling. Energy prices are falling. Even Schumer, he is now calling the GDP numbers a mirage, saying that something ominous is lurking under the hood and something's going to happen very, very soon. Now, the only thing that can actually happen is an event that they create. And what's very interesting is that there was a cyber attack in St. Paul, Minnesota, and Governor Walz actually called out the National Guard. And yes, there were other cyber attacks around the world, which I find very, very interesting because they just need an event to blame everything on Trump. Without the event, the economy is going to continue the way it's going. Actually, I think even with the event, they're going to have a very difficult time. It might look bad in the beginning, but I do believe Trump can overcome this very, very quickly. And this is, of course, if they can get this off the ground. But when we start to look at the economy that Trump has built, you could see it is much stronger, much better. And the people of this country, they're starting to realize this. And ADP, they put out their numbers, and the numbers came in better than expected. So the American economy added a larger than expected 104,000 jobs in July, according to ADP employment data released this morning. This is better than the 76,000 expected, and June's 33,000 job loss was revised up to 23,000 job loss. So right there, you could see that everything now is shifting. And you have to remember, Trump was coming out of Biden's disastrous economy, where he had inflation, high fuel costs, the Green New scam. It was a complete and utter disaster. And it only took Trump 6 months to start to turn this all around. E.J. Antoni put out a thread on the economy and what it's doing right now. And this is what he says. While consumer spending accelerated in the second quarter from the first quarter, government purchases barely grew and, in fact, are now flat on the year. This is the reprivatization that Trump and Bessent have articulated, growing the productive private sector, not government. So when you start to look at GDP numbers and you start to look at the economy, you have to remember Trump now is shifting everything away from the government, reducing and shrinking the government, and actually building the private sector. You see, the deep state players, they did it the opposite way. They basically built up the government jobs because, again, if you're just borrowing money, you could just create as many jobs as you want. I mean, most of the people are doing absolutely nothing. And now Trump is doing the opposite. He is shrinking the government, getting rid of those jobs, and moving everything to the private sector, where it should be in the first place. Let me continue. After the first quarter spike in the GDP price index, which was driven almost entirely by prices jumping in January, this measure of inflation fell by almost half in the second quarter and is down to the Fed's 2.0 target. That's interesting. Inflation indicators came way down in the second quarter, thanks in large part to lower energy prices. And the GDP price index came in just below the 2% target. So now the Fed has all the ammunition. They have everything that they need to lower the rates. And the Fed, what did they do? They decided to leave the rates unchanged. So basically, everything is what they wanted. The economy is booming. Everything's great. And of course, why are they holding steady right now? Because I do believe they're waiting for something to happen. Now, of course, on August 1st, the bill comes due to many, many nations where they're going to have to pay tariffs. Now, you know how sometimes you see something and think, okay, I need those in my life like yesterday. That was me when I first came across these Trump Never Surrender gold sneakers. These aren't just shoes. They're a full-on statement, bold, fearless, and unapologetically patriotic. I mean, just look at them. The gold finish, the red and white blue accents. It's like wearing a piece of American pride right on your feet. And let me tell you, they don't just look good, they feel good. The quality is legit, comfortable, durable, and surprisingly lightweight. These kicks aren't sitting in the back of your closet gathering dust. You actually want to wear them, show them off, maybe even start a few conversations. What I love most is the message they send, never surrender. It's not just a slogan, it's a mindset. Whether you're out making moves or just walking into the weekend, these sneakers are a reminder to stand strong and never back down. They also become a favorite gift. I mean, we all know someone who would love these, a big Trump supporter collector or just someone who rocks bold style. And here's the best part. Each pair is part of a limited run, so you're not getting some mass-produced junk. These are numbered, exclusive, and designed to make a statement. If this sounds like your vibe, or if you're already picturing someone in your life who'd flip for these, go check them out. Our awesome X22 audience gets a special 15% discount at the MAGAoffers.com/X22. That's MAGAoffers.com/X22. I'll spell it out for you. THEMAGAOFFERS.com/X22. Use that link to grab your pair now and take 15% off your order. Don't wait too long. These are going fast. Own a piece of the movement and step into something legendary, or just click the link in the description. Are they waiting for that event? Are they waiting to see if that is going to cause inflation? Now, when that doesn't cause inflation, I do believe at that point in time, they've gone through all these different things that they were hoping were going to cause inflation. Now I do believe what the deep state, the central bankers have to do is they actually have to create an event to actually cause the inflation. And what's very interesting is that Bank of America, they believe that there'll be no Fed rate cut this year whatsoever. And you have to remember, it looks like the Fed's not even looking at September to actually have a Fed rate cut. Now, when we go through the month of August and they start to see there's no inflation, this is going to be a major, major problem for them, because at what point do people of this country and the economists and everyone say, okay, this doesn't make any sense now. You're holding the rate, but this is all the things that you said you wanted to happen. You wanted 2% target. You wanted the employment like this. You wanted the economy growing. Everything is going the exact way you said, and you're still not lowering the rates. During Obama's administration, everything was the opposite, and you decided to lower the rates. Does that make any sense? Trump, he responded to Powell and said the following. Second quarter GDP just out, 3%, way better than expected. Too late, must now lower the rate. No inflation, let people buy and refinance their homes. And yes, this would improve car sales. Businesses would be able to borrow money. It would be absolutely incredible. And you know what's going to happen? The economy is going to take off. So you could tell the Fed, they're definitely waiting, I think, until after August 1st. They're hoping through the month of August and maybe into September, they're going to see inflation. Now, when they don't see inflation picking up and they see the opposite happening, I do believe at this point in time, they might be planning some type of an event. I'm talking about the deep state, the central bankers, because remember, once the people see the economy really start to take off, which they're already starting to see, and it gets better and better and better as we go through the months of November, December, January, it's going to be very, very difficult for the Fed to keep this narrative. It's going to completely and utterly fall apart. Trump and the Patriots, they know this. And I do believe they're expecting something to happen. But we'll have to see how that all plays out. But you can see that Trump, he's prepared and ready to implement the tariffs. He's ready to send out the bills, and all these countries are going to be paying tariffs. This is what he put out on Truth. He said the following. Remember, while India is our friend, we have, over the years, done relatively little business with them because their tariffs are far too high, among the highest in the world, and they have the most strenuous and obnoxious non-monetary trade barriers of any country. Also, they have always bought a vast majority of their military equipment from Russia and are Russia's largest buyer of energy, along with China, at a time when everyone wants Russia to stop the killing in Ukraine. All things not good. India will therefore be paying a tariff of 25% plus a penalty for the above, starting on August 1st. Thank you for your attention to this matter, MAGA. So basically, he's hitting India very, very hard to put pressure, again, on Russia, and yes, put pressure on India to let's make an incredible deal here and let's stop what we're doing. Now, remember, most of the nations now, they're going to be getting hit with tariffs, very high tariffs, and we're going to be bringing in a lot of currency into this country. And again, the Fed, like we said just before, the Fed's hoping, crossing their fingers, that this is going to be their inflation moment. And I think the opposite is going to happen. Now, the other thing that's very interesting is this is how you can see that things are really now starting to change. JP Morgan, remember Jamie Dimon? He hates cryptocurrency. He called crypto a hyped up fraud, a decentralized Ponzi scheme. But now JP Morgan is going to allow crypto purchases with credit cards. Isn't that interesting? Why is that? Because the bankers, they understand their time is over. The Federal Reserve, they just don't know it yet. But I do believe in the end, we're going to see that everything the Fed has been doing, it's going to come back to haunt them. And you could see the Fed governors now across the country, they're not in lockstep anymore. They're actually now breaking ranks, and Trump is continually calling out the Fed. Now, remember, Trump took a tour of the Federal Reserve. He showed people that, look, they have no idea what they're doing with renovation. They're over budget, and this is the private West Central Bank that is managing our country. Does it make any sense? Absolutely not. And this is the first time in over 3 decades, 2 Fed members dissented today's Fed decision. There is a growing divide within the Fed. I do believe in the end, Trump is going to rip this Fed completely and utterly apart. And this is going to give him the ammunition that he needs. And I do believe his entire agenda right now is to divide the Fed, show the people the Fed has no idea what they're doing. He knows how to run an economy. And eventually, he's going to get the people on his side to actually restructure the entire Fed and bring it into the Treasury. And it looks like he's putting all the pieces in place to do this. Joe Lange put this out and said, Trump is wasting no time. The Genius Act has passed, and now Trump's working group is setting up the new financial system quickly. They're also focusing on DeFi, decentralized finance. I wrote an article years ago about this possibility coming, and I guess who will likely be at the center of it? Elon Musk. DeFi will remove the power of banks over the people because it gives alternatives to the people for financing. So let's see. Trump now is putting everything into place that is now going to allow people to get financing, to use currency outside of the banking system. It's giving people alternatives, which means he's setting everything up to break us free from the central bank and the banks themselves. Because once they lose their grip on the people and people have alternatives, people can go someplace else. Well, then we, the people, and Trump, we have the leverage over the banks and the central bank. And think about what Trump is doing right now. He's setting up the parallel economy. We're going to be going back to sound money. We're going to be going back to gold. And as the parallel system gets stronger and stronger and stronger, it's going to give him more and more leverage. And think about all the other pieces that he's putting into place right now. And think about the banks now saying, okay, I guess we'll allow Bitcoin because they see the writing on the wall. They see that, wait a minute, if they're not in with the plan, they're going to be left out. And eventually, I think what's going to happen is when everything is all said and done, I don't mean this is going to happen like in 1 or 2 years. Over the many, many years, I do believe there's going to be a very, very big shift away from the traditional banking system, the way we know it today. And I do believe everything will be decentralized and you'll be able to manage your own currency and you will not need a bank to do this. You'll be able to finance. You'll be able to get a mortgage. You'll be able to do contracts outside of the system that they have created, and everything will be decentralized. This way, nobody can tell you, "Oh, I'm shutting down your bank account. Oh, I don't want you to get I don't want you to finance anything." I think those old days are coming to an end, and we're going to see a brand new future. Now, I do believe that the new system is going to be made up of gold. Actually, this is a very big confidence builder. Actually, gold, once we audit the Fed, that is going to destroy the Federal Reserve in itself because, again, the fiat currency has lost so much value over time that once we locate the gold and we see that, let's see how much we have. Now, if we don't have enough, well, the Fed is to blame. If we have too much, where did this all come from? Trump can revalue this gold, and I do believe as the gold prices continually moves up and up and up and up, the revaluation is going to give him a lot of leverage against the Federal Reserve. And it's not just here in the United States, but around the world. So I think between Bitcoin, blockchain, and gold, I think all of this together and everything that Trump is setting up right now is going to give him the leverage and the ability to shut down their entire system and move us to a brand new system that benefits the people and allows the people to do things that they've never done before. Plus, it will allow them to get their buying power back. Because once the new currency is put into place, the old currency that lost its value, it'll be very, very easy to pay off. I mean, really think about this, because think about it. If you have Bitcoin, you have gold, and this is hedging against a devaluing currency, you have leverage over everything. Your car payments, your house payments, everything, the loans that you have out with the fiat currency. And as this occurs, you'll see massive inflation with the fiat currency, which means it's going to drive up Bitcoin, is going to drive up gold, and you're going to see gold and Bitcoin and silver. You won't even need that much to pay off what you have in fiat. And I do believe that day is coming, and I do believe Trump and the Patriots, they're setting all of this up. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.